Good morning, everyone. My name is EJ Schultz, Assistant Managing Editor for Ad Age, and welcome to our latest edition of Ad Age Remotely. Today, I'm pleased to welcome Deborah Wahl, who's the Global Chief Marketing Officer at General Motors.
Hi, EJ.
Hi, Deborah. Thanks so much for joining us. I know you're in the middle of a really busy week, and I kind of want to start there. You actually rolled out a new logo actually late last week. But before we talk about that, I want to remind all our viewers to submit any questions you have as we continue this interview, and also let us know where you're viewing from. But let's get back to the logo. And before I start asking you about that, I want to just make sure we put it on screen so people kind of see what we're talking about. There it is. So these are big decisions for companies when you update your logo. I mean, this is your corporate brand after all. So why now? I think it's only the fifth time that GM has updated its corporate look in 113 years. And I think it's the most aggressive change since 1964. So talk about it.
Yeah, thanks for that. So 3 years ago, we set out a vision to help create a world of zero crashes, zero emissions, and zero congestion. And since then, the company has been absolutely focused in totality on how we can achieve this vision. And that means we've had to do a lot of transforming inside. So we've transformed the way we work. We've transformed the speed at which we work. We have this new phrase that's called, let's do everything at ventilator speed, because that really showed the whole organization that we could absolutely pivot, start manufacturing ventilators. It was 30 days from first meeting till when they came off the manufacturing line. And that's been our new benchmark. We've reorganized, we've restructured, we've built our technology prowess. We've developed the Ultium battery platform along with several others that make this future vision possible. So with all that change inside, now is the moment to make sure that outwardly with our corporate identity that we reflect all this change. And the new logo has energy, vitality. It reflects our vision of the future going forward. It's more approachable and inclusive. And that was really an important part of the overall story. So that's why now is the moment. It's really critical, when you have so much change, that you can communicate that in all the ways that we communicate, both inwardly and outwardly.
And I think you guys actually, most big companies, I know, Burger King just went through this. We've seen a lot of these, and most of the times companies will hire an outside design agency to do these. I think you guys actually did this one internally. Can you talk about the people that did this, and is this a group that you have that does this kind of thing regularly for you?
Yeah, well, I think it's important if people don't know, we have an incredible history of design at General Motors. In fact, our whole tech center where I am today was built by Sarnan, who was sort of one of the fathers of mid-century modern design that really shaped how we look at design overall. We're in a building that was designed by him. And we have a design team that not only does our vehicles, but does all of our design throughout the company, industrial design, et cetera. They're extremely talented, obviously very passionate. So when we decided that it was time to reflect outwardly what we're doing, we went to our team internally, led by a woman named Sharon Gauchi, who's incredible. And, this is one of those passion projects. This is one where that you're representing all 164,000 employees at the company. So we really have to do something that is a strong nod to our heritage, but also reflects the future. So she put a team of 12 designers on the case. They came from multiple disciplines across the company to really reflect on this. They reviewed hundreds of designs, spent several months working on it. And we had decided that this is the one that most represents who we are today and where we're going in the future. So it'll probably take a little bit of change. Change is always, as we know, as human beings, we never like change, but I'm really excited about it. And the internal reflection on it has been super positive because it reflects all the hard work that so many of our team is doing right now.
If we could put it on screen again, I just want to point out. So I know you've said that it's because you're leaning into your electric vehicle ambitions. I think you've said that if you look at it a certain way, it sort of looks like an electrical plug. Is that right?
Yeah, that was a byproduct as we looked at it. One of those nice little things that are in there. But really, the new colors reflect sort of the vision of the clear blue skies that we see going forward. again, the lowercase is much more approachable, much more inclusive. We put out an ambition, our CEO, Mary Barra, as all the social injustice movement started this year, or really accelerated this year, put out an ambition to be the most inclusive company in the world. We thought that was the part that was also important of it, and it really signals where we're going in the future.
So this is your news. It was more than just a new logo. You guys have put out a whole new campaign, corporate campaign called Everybody In from McCann. And before we talk about that, I want to play one of the lead ads in that campaign.
Okay.
Change. You can resist it, be left behind, or embrace it and move forward.
We're driving it
everywhere.
We emit optimism, not exhaust.
We plug in our vehicles as naturally as we charge our phones.
We don't judge cars by the rev of an engine,
but by the hum of progress. We
are Generation E.
United.
Not by age,
but by the desire
for smart, clean, and safe.
To also be fun, easy,
and powerful.
And our power
comes from this.
Ultium.
A battery that charges fast.
Runs long. It fits everyone.
Because when it comes to this all-electric future,
nobody will be left out.
And that changes everything.
The electric future starts now.
So Malcolm Gladwell, I don't think is someone that people might immediately think of when they think of car advertising. Can you talk about the decision to put him out in front of this campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, this campaign is really a declaration of intent from General Motors, from all of our employees about what we believe the future is. It's also an ambition to start a movement that really is an inflection point, or some might say a tipping point. So as we started looking at where this is going and what this moment is really in our own history collectively, we said, who better to talk about it? We started having some engaging discussions with Malcolm about when is there a tipping point? What makes those things relevant that you could feel confident that things are dramatically changing? And he was all in and actually really helped us frame up our thinking about this. So as we went on with that, we said, well, he should be part of the voice of this new generation, this Generation E that we're talking about.
Let's talk a little bit more about your ambitions for electric vehicles, because I think as we sit here today, you only have one model that's actually being sold, right? The Bolt.
Yeah, correct.
But you have plans, GM has plans to invest something like $27 billion in electric and autonomous vehicles and launch 30 new EVs by 2025. And over the years, there's been a lot of hype about electric vehicles, but every time I look at the market share, it's still like down around 2%, something like that. But big companies like yours are throwing all kinds of money behind it. What gives you confidence that the average consumer is going to want to buy one of these things?
Yeah, well, several things. First of all, we've spent a lot of time developing our battery technology. That's also part of this point of the spot, talking about our Ultium battery platform, because that's actually critical in being able to have confidence that we can provide EVs for everyone and that we can really solve for all lifestyles and price points. So that was the first point. Second point is, you see, we do believe in climate change, and we think there is a compelling standard that we need to help the world achieve. We put out a vision of zero emissions 3 years ago, and this is a critical part of really being able to contribute in that way. And then finally, as we look at, I don't know if you've driven in EV, but they are wonderful. I'm driving a Bolt right now. It's an incredible experience. If you look at anyone who has become an EV driver, they all say that they're not going back to ICE, that they are really intent on this. And the thing that we really want to also communicate to everyone is that the EV experience changes your driving experience. It'll change your ownership experience. It's built on software platforms, so it makes for a much more engaging experience. We think actually this is probably the biggest revolution in the driving experience that we've had in the past 50 years or so. So they're really fun to drive. And we started demonstrating that. It's one of the reasons that we have revealed the GMC Hummer EV first, to really show the extreme level of capability that you can achieve in an EV. It's incredible. It's, it is capable of everything: 1,000 horsepower, 11,500 pounds-foot of torque. It can go 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. It has crab mode capability. All these things are more than possible in an EV, and it was important for us to show that in the super truck to demonstrate the capabilities. Our second vehicle that will be coming out is the Cadillac Lyriq. Our Cadillac brand will be our first to go all electric, and then that shows the refinement that you can achieve in an EV and all of the aspects inside the vehicle as well as outside that really make it a very different experience. So I think as we progress, I'm very confident that as consumers see these options and understand that they'll really love what's on offer, and that there will be a mass tipping point.
When you say Cadillac's going all electric, you mean, describe what that means, like only electric vehicles, or just having every model available in electric?
All their future vehicles will be electric.
All future. So
yeah.
If we look forward long enough, you won't be able to buy a internal combustion engine Cadillac.
Right.
Of course, let's talk a little bit more about the marketing challenge here, because I know one of the hurdles has been what people in the industry call range anxiety, which is this idea that I'm going to jump in my electric car and drive to Walmart and get groceries and not run out of power and not be able to get home. How big of a challenge is that for you guys in your messaging, and how are you attacking that?
Yeah, it's been so interesting as you look at it, because when the broader audience talks about EVs, that's everything that comes up first: the anxiety and how am I going to handle this and all that. So part of what we're really also hoping to do with this campaign is help people forget everything they think they know about EVs to really understand what EVs have to offer. First of all, the vehicle range is increasing rapidly. In fact, we've already declared that we'll have vehicles up to 450 miles in range. 300 miles, I think, is the benchmark for where things will be going in the future. And it's very approachable. There's a lot of fear about how do I charge or how do I install a charging system. We've really worked to simplify that process, make it really easy. In fact, I have a 1950s house with an ancient electrical based system, and I was able to install my charger in like less than 30 minutes. And it was very simple, and it's such a relief not to ever have to go to the gas station again when I have to make that extra stop. So there's a lot of communication, I think, that needs to come out to help consumers understand how manageable this is. We're also investing a lot in the charging infrastructure. We've done a partnership with EVgo to have 2,700 fast charging stations throughout the country. And that's just the first step in more to come about how we help everyone understand this. And so as you stop back and look, these challenges and these obstacles are all very manageable, and there's solid plans in place across the board to start handling them. So I think that's the important time now, is to help everyone understand the other side of how fun they are to drive, how much capability they have, what that driving experience can be, how it enables intuitive responsiveness to the driver when you're driving. So it changes the whole experience.
I want to give a few shout outs to people watching. We have Steve from California, Fernan from Costa Rica, Diana from Honduras, Casey from Canada, so from all over the world. And we have a question from Lamont, who's watching on LinkedIn. He says, when will the price point be palatable to the masses when we're talking about EVs? I know that's the message of your campaign, calling it everybody in, obviously trying to plug kind of this idea that it can be electric vehicles for the masses. But what are these things really affordable?
Well, we've set the benchmark with the Bolt right now. It's in the mid-30s, very affordable and accessible. And we're launching a 2021 new Bolt this year, along with a hatchback version, which provides more accessibility. So we've started that with our Chevrolet brand already. And I think, again, this first year, we're showing the range of capabilities. And as we've said, we've announced that we'll have a full range of 30 EVs by 2025. So that means that we'll be attacking all of those price points and lifestyle choices.
So for the new campaign, Everybody In, what kind of media support are you giving that? We've been hearing rumblings that you guys are going to be in the Super Bowl this year. Is that true? Can you confirm that?
I can't confirm that. What we did, one, we think this is a really strong platform launching in the beginning of the year with CES. You will see this is not just a 1-month campaign. We intend that this will continue throughout the year, and the GM brand has a role to play in the foreseeable future.
So I do want to talk about CES in a moment, but first I want to talk about another very topical item, which is politics. I know GM, I think, we've seen a lot of brands come out in the last few days and say they're stopping political donations in the wake of, a handful of Republicans voting against the election, and obviously the riots in DC last week. You guys put out a statement last night saying, that you paused contributions, that GM has paused contributions. And I'll just read from the statement. You said in 2020, we enhanced the character and public integrity criteria for making contributions, and that will help to guide our decisions moving forward. So someone in the global CMO seat as yourself, how do you deal with this? Your company, your brand, like all brands, being pulled into the political conversation right now. How are you dealing with that? How do you view this right now?
I think as we've looked, companies, especially large corporations like ours, have a different role to play than we played in the past. In fact, the Business Roundtable set out a few years ago, maybe 2 years ago, what the responsibilities of companies are beyond just shareholder value, but in our communities, to make sure that people are safe and included, and that there's a good future going forward. So I find that these types of decisions are very much in that role that we need to step up and play. We actually have an obligation. We employ 164,000 people. We have an obligation for that. For GM, our priority is advancing a safer world for all. That's what we see as our driving force. We live it every day in all of our discussions. And so making decisions like that, taking a pause to reassess how we play in political donations, how we are taking part in the social justice movement, all of these things, I think, are the responsibility of every senior leader now. And people are counting on us to step forward and make those decisions.
And of course, the auto industry has long been, of any industry, you guys are often pulled into presidential elections and having to make statements on big policy decisions. Do you feel that the auto industry as a whole, though, has gotten more progressive in recent years? I know Ford and yourselves, you're talking openly about climate change and the environment. If you go back several years, I don't know if that's necessarily the messages you'd be hearing from auto companies. When it comes to California, there are stronger emission standards. I think you guys have changed your view on that. So what's in the air right now? Why are auto companies seemingly kind of leading in these areas suddenly?
Yeah. Well, I think for General Motors, at least 3 years ago, when we made that statement, understood what has been some of the negative impacts of actually our history and what the automobile industry has done, and declared that our vision is a world of zero crashes, zero emissions, and zero congestion. That was the starting point, really, for this company to completely change what we see as our role. And I've worked in many different places. And I can't tell you how exciting it is to work in the automotive industry right now. It touches everything in technology that's happening today, from communication to AI to ML to everything that is really interesting going on and delivers this in tangible ways to customers who use our product every day. So it's really exciting. We just announced that we're hiring 3,000 engineers, IT specialists, design experts, because we have so much momentum going forward in terms of what this is to work. And it's really an exciting place to go to be right now, right at the center of all of this significant change, and change that will have a true impact on the world. So yes, I think the automotive industry has changed. It's more fun than ever. I've been in and out of it for the last almost 3 decades, and could not be more excited about what the possibilities are and what we have to offer. And that's part of why it was important to have this campaign and this message now, so that other people could start seeing what we're doing.
Before we continue, I want to remind everyone watching, if you have any questions, to please submit your questions on our social channels, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. You chose CS to make a lot of these announcements. I know you've been going to CS for a while. I know we were talking offline. You and I actually had a real in-person interview a year ago, live on camera, or not live, but recorded, but in a big crowd. And now you're, in Detroit. I'm in Chicago. Things are definitely different. But I want to ask you about how you approach CS. But I think before I do, I want to play a video that just kind of shows the breadth of stuff you guys have been talking about this week in a virtual way.
We want this to be the start of a movement, an inflection point in the history of electric vehicles.
General Motors wants to put everyone in an electric vehicle. We have the technology and manufacturing expertise, as well as the global scale to do it.
That changes the dynamic and gets you a lot closer to the tipping point.
Ultium gives us a full range of electric vehicles.
We are Generation E.
United by the desire.
We're smart, clean, and safe.
And powerful.
Our engineers, they had 3 processes to show me that following Monday. We've termed ventilator speed now in our organization to remind us of what we were able to accomplish in 30 days.
Aerial mobility is coming. Super exciting just to see the models that we built and imagine it is actually possible. We're working on that for the future.
The Unreal Engine is really taking anything to do with that vehicle visualization to the next level.
It will notice if you're stressed out, and it'll turn the lighting, into the blues and greens and give you that spa-like feel.
This is a pretty bold direction for traditional automaker. What's driving GM's ambitions here?
Well, quite simply, it's the right thing to do.
So that was just a snapshot of some of the stuff you guys have had going on this week. Can you talk about, obviously you've known for a while that this was not going to be in person. How did you approach it this year? How big a change was it for you? What did you hope to achieve and get out of CES?
Yeah, we felt it was still important to be a key participant because CES always kicks off the year with what is happening in technology, what's the direction of our collective future. So for that, it was really important. When Mary agreed to do the opening keynote for CES, we talked a lot about what that would be. As you can imagine, when we first committed to it, it was definitely going to be in person. But actually, the virtual environment, I think, has been a real gain for us. It allowed us to tell our stories in much deeper, with more depth, so that you could really understand the technology that's underpinning our transformation and our confidence in this transformation and what we can offer the world. So we were able to do about 46 pieces of content overall that showed all this. And we were able to have the people who are doing the work, who are actually innovating and inventing and figuring this out, be present also at CES, and everyone has a chance to really hear from them about what the technology is that they're working on. For example, there's a quick clip of Andy Ori, who's been really a leader in our Ultium battery platform, and he really goes through and explains the technology and what it is and how we're approaching it. May and Mary Barra's keynote speech also takes everyone through that. So I actually ended up loving the virtual environment. I thought it enabled us to be much more creative, much more expansive in the message that we were bringing to everyone, and it allowed us to start telling our story in a really different way.
So I want to take it up a few notches, talk more philosophically about the automobile itself and what's happened during the pandemic and how people are viewing their cars differently. I think a lot of people, it's almost like a little mini sanctuary, it's like a way to get out of the house, but still be safe. And I think there's more urban young people that have had basically foreclosed on the idea of buying a car. They're now kind of giving it a second look. Maybe they're still a little bit anxious about riding mass transit, getting in an Uber. As a marketer, how has that changed the way that you guys are marketing their vehicles? And even if we get hopefully beyond the pandemic soon, do you think there's some lasting effects here?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's been a really interesting influx of all of these elements together. So our purpose really at GM is advancing a safer world for all. We start every meeting with the safety message. We talk about how we bring safety in. And I think this moment with the pandemic has completely expanded how our consumers are viewing safety. So from everything to, we launched immediately a clean process. So if anyone got into a new car, they could be absolutely assured that it was absolutely clean. And we've launched something called the OnStar Guardian app, which takes our OnStar capabilities and brings them outside the vehicle so that anyone can have that assurance that they have someone with them. So it's really changed the whole way that I think the world is looking at this idea of safety and how we are looking at safety overall. The other thing, I'll keep going unless you have a question.
Well, I wanted to ask you about the shopping experience.
Yeah, that's where we're going to
guys. Okay, cool. So you guys, this is pretty recent. You launched something called Chevy My Way, which is literally it's a virtual kind of live one-on-one tour that someone could take rather than physically going to the dealership. We have a little snapshot of it on screen. Can you explain what this is?
Yeah, so we've been really looking at virtual experiences overall, and we know that we have a large amount of our customers who don't necessarily feel comfortable leaving, but they still want information. And as you said, the demand for vehicles has been incredibly strong, just for the reasons that you cited. So we launched what we're calling Chevy My Way, our virtual showroom. Cadillac also has Cadillac Live, so they could do it. But this allows any consumer who wants to take a good look at a car, but also have a one-on-one discussion. It's actually a video chat. So there's someone who is in a virtual showroom that we have. There are spokespeople. They're equipped with a video and a camera, and they can take you around the car and answer any questions you might have, just like an in-person visit. And they're responsive to whatever you want because they're doing the visit for you. And it works incredibly well. The engagement has been growing. For Chevy, we just started, but we do know with Cadillac Live, it has been growing over the last year. So we know this works. And it's a great way also to help interface for our dealerships who really also want to make sure that people can get an in-depth view. But again, everyone wants to stay safe. So this is a great way of providing incredible information to our customers. And then they are much more prepared when they want to engage with their dealership.
Have you, and I know your dealers are obviously involved in this, but have you reached a point where someone could complete the entire purchase without having to go anywhere in person, like doing the live tour, then having the car delivered to them and signing all the documents virtually? Is that doable right now?
Yeah, it's almost doable. So most of it is. In fact, the live tour, we also launched and really accelerated our capabilities on a site that we call Shop Click Drive, which enables much of the purchase process to be finalized virtually. Our dealers are more than willing to deliver a vehicle for a test drive to someone's home if they so choose and have that experience. So yes, I think we're very close. In fact, we reorganized last year and established a new customer experience group who has accelerated all this development in partnership with our dealers. We think it's really important to work collectively with them because the value of a dealer network is astonishing. And it really helps as we build this future that we're imagining. So yeah, all of those things are now possible, and they'll just keep getting better as we go along the way. You can't actually do the final signature yet, but that I believe will be coming too.
Related to shopping, I wanted to get your thoughts currently on the state of subscription car buying, which was hot for a while. I haven't heard as much about it recently. I know you had been at Cadillac, and that was part of the Cadillac push for a while, the idea that you're kind of buying a car like a Netflix subscription and you can swap out the vehicle, when you want. Is that still in vogue, or is that sort of maybe hasn't really taken hold like it?
I don't think it took off, and primarily because of the financials behind it for the moment. However, I think as we start rolling out, part of what we explain, and it's on our GM Exhibit 0, is something called the Vehicle Intelligence Platform. It's a software platform that enables continuing interaction, actually upgrades, et cetera, for a vehicle, and as we start rolling that out. So I think in the future, as we have different capabilities to help people either have access to features that they didn't want to purchase when they first purchased the car, as they new elements come on board, that an idea around the subscription model might make more sense. But for now, I think it's just it's a clear. The financials were challenging, but I think what's most important is we're hearing that people want a variety of experiences. There's still people that will only go in person to a dealership and they have a great experience there. There's many that want pieces of it online. There's some that want it all virtually online. So it's this balancing act of really being able to be multimodal in a sense, to streamline everything, make it seamless according to your needs. And that's what our goal is.
We're running out of time, but I did want to get to at least one or two questions. There's a lot of interest in electric vehicles from our viewers. And someone has asked, Richard on LinkedIn is asking if Elon Musk had any influence over GM's changing direction into electric. So I'll let you take that one.
Well, thank you, Richard, for that question. It comes up a lot. One, I think that overall, this is a collective effort on behalf of our country and the future that we want to have. So all the forces in are good. That's why we actually say everybody in. It's going to be collective. But we set out this vision over 3 years ago to achieve it. And we've been working very hard to make it happen, while we've also had an incredibly robust business with our traditional vehicles, our ICE vehicles. So we're balancing all of that, but our engineers have been just as hard at work over the last 3 years. And we think we can actually accelerate how this all comes to life.
The other question around electric vehicles was, I know you're trying to push kind of a everybody in message, but Jamie on LinkedIn asks, how is GM working with utilities and others to ensure equitable access to EV charging stations? You know, obviously making sure that they're in all neighborhoods.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for that. That's part of, we have an entire group within the company really working on that overall. I think there's a lot of challenges, even as you look at charging in apartments versus homes versus everything. So I think it will be a step-by-step process, but we're definitely committed to making them accessible to everyone.
Okay, we're out of time, Deborah. I really want to thank you for your time. We could obviously keep talking, but maybe you can come back on in a couple months and give us an update on how all of this is going.
Great, love that. I love my metrics, and it was almost as good as seeing you in person, EJ. Almost, not quite so.
Hopefully soon. Thanks again, Deborah.
All right, take care. Bye.